Hey guys, and welcome to Simple Coloring. We're starting off nice and easy. Let's go ahead and jump into our first example. So here in Photoshop, I'm going to go to File, Open, and we're going to take a look at our simple coloring. So it's in our sample images. If you haven't already downloaded the sample images, be sure to do so. You can do that right on Fluorn.com, or if you just purchase this tutorial a la carte, it'll be in your download package. So let's go to our sample images here. We're going to go start with simple coloring, and we're going to go with number 1.jpg. There we go. So let's hit F for full screen, and we are going to be working on this green macaroon. And we're going to be doing our best to color match it with this other one here. So let's go ahead and figure out how we are going to select this color and change it. Well, first things first, obviously we need to make a selection of some sort, right? Because we can't just change the entire image. And we do have a green color, and there's not much green in the rest of the image. So what that tells me is, because there's green here and not much green in the other parts of the image, is I should be able to use either my hue saturation adjustment layer and target those greens, or select color range and target these areas. So let's go ahead and show you guys how to do both of those things. So we're going to start off with a hue saturation adjustment layer. Let's go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue Saturation, and hit OK. So what we want to do, remember, we got to target those greens, because if I don't, it's just going to change the hue of everything, right? So we got to target the greens. So let's go right here where it says our master. I'm going to go to green, and then be sure to use the eyedropper and click on the green that you actually want to target. Okay, so now that that green is targeted, you can see it's going to change the color here on the top to the color on the bottom. We're going to start off by dragging our hue slider to the left there. So let's just go right on to the left, and somewhere around there is looking pretty good. It's a little bit dark, so let's see if we can lighten that up a little bit. That's looking nice. And then as we lighten things up, you'll see that they kind of lose some saturation. So you want to lighten it up and then bring back some of your saturation as well. Okay, there we go. Let's lighten it up even more, and we'll really start to bring in our saturation now. All right, and we can just take our hue slider and just take this to the left just a little bit there. Okay, looking really good. So turning that off and on, I think we're looking really nice. It's not an exact match. Exact color matching is, there we go. There we go. Is usually pretty tough. The main reason here it's not exact is because this is basically just started off darker as this. You can see this got a lot of highlight, and here is shadow. But as far as like color matching, they're pretty similar. So you can see I just adjusted my hue there. I'm at -61, if you guys want to write that down or whatever. Our saturation we bring up, and our lightness we can bring up as well. So as you bring up your lightness, just be sure to bring up your saturation, and there we go. So that looks really nice. Now, making this visible and invisible, you'll see a couple of things here. First, it's getting the little shadow / reflection area on the ground. Okay, so it's turning that color too, which is exactly what we want. Okay. And it's also getting this in the background. So let's hit B for the brush tool, and I'm just gonna paint black on my layer mask just right there. See, super easy, and we turn that off and on, and we've got a nice color match. Really cool. So that's probably the easiest way, just using the hue saturation adjustment layer. Next way we're gonna do this is with a select color range, and then we're gonna colorize this object. So let's go ahead and start off. I'm gonna make this layer invisible. We'll create a new layer here, and I'm gonna go to select and down to color range. So here, I wanna make sure I got my eyedropper. I'm gonna click here on the green for this color range, and then I need to click on this little plus eyedropper here, and I need to ensure that I've clicked on all this stuff. But as you can see, I click on all this stuff. It's like basically just selecting like so much of my image. So I'm gonna hit Alt or Option here, and that's gonna change where it says cancel. It's gonna change it to reset, because I need to reset this, because I'm like, you know what, too much here. So let's eyedropper this. Okay, looking pretty good. That's getting us most of the way there. Let's add a little eyedropper point. Yep, that's looking pretty good. Let's hit OK there. So we can see that this area is selected, and there we go. And it's also selecting some other things, but that's okay. So now what we want to do, we have our selection. we're gonna go to our adjustment layers, and I'm gonna go to solid color. Let's hit OK, and I'm gonna change our layer blend mode from normal down to color. Okay, so now with our solid color, I can literally choose whatever color I want, which is really nice. See, here we go, all kinds of fun colors. And I can actually use my eyedropper and choose the colors directly here from my other macaroon, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and sample one of these colors. Now, you'll notice, obviously, it looks totally weird, because if I hold Alt or Option and look at my layer mask, you can see that this is not completely selected here. Up here is also selected where it shouldn't be. So let's go ahead and use our brush tool. I'm just gonna paint white on my layer mask right here on the inside of this area. There we go, on the inside of this little macaroon. All right, just painting white right on my layer mask, nice and easy. There we go, looking good. And we'll go ahead and paint white right down there too. Get the little reflection area. Okay, now this looks pretty good, except for obviously we don't want any of that stuff out there to be visible, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change my brush to black. So we just wanna paint this black to make this invisible. And now there's one other cool trick that I wanna show you, and that's anytime you need to get kind of close to this area, like I need to get kind of close to the, looks like a hamburger, to this macaroon, what I'm gonna do is change my layer blend, not layer blend mode, the brush blend mode from normal down to overlay. And this is gonna help dark areas get darker, but it's gonna leave those light areas alone, which is really nice. So I can kind of get in there and you can see, it's just, even if I paint right up to there, it's just gonna leave those light areas alone. So that's using the brush overlay. Now, I'm gonna hit X and I'm gonna paint with white, and then I'm gonna use my overlay function, and you're gonna see it's gonna fill out right to the edge there. So overlay is a really cool tool to use. Just change the blending mode of your brush itself instead of the layer. Just when you're done, be sure to change it back to normal, or you're gonna be like trying to use your brush tool and it's like, what's wrong with my brush tool? It's not working. It's probably still in overlay blend mode, so do keep that in mind. Anyway, real cool trick. Now our layer mask looks great. Let's go ahead and click back on our layer, and we can see here, we've changed it to color. Okay, let's double click here. We can definitely just change this color, but we're gonna start to see one of the, kind of the downfalls of just setting this to color. Highlights and shadows tend to be less saturated than the midtones. So you can see my color actually looks okay in the midtones here, but here in the shadows and the highlights, it really doesn't look right. So instead of changing this to color, because remember, color will also include saturation, what I'm gonna do is change it to hue. Okay, and now that it's set to hue, it's using the same saturation values as the green. Okay, same saturation values as the green was, but it's just gonna use the hue of wherever I select. So you can see as I choose different hues, we're getting a nice realistic result, because it's, again, using the same saturation of the original and just the hue of wherever I click. All right, let's go down there and see. That's a pretty good match. Okay, so we can see we basically did the same thing in two different ways. All right, so let's go ahead and see. This is our first method using hue saturation, and let's make that invisible. And here is our second method. I think they did a really nice job, both of them. I think the hue saturation just was a little bit easier, but we just want to show you guys a bunch of different versions, just in case something that we do doesn't work for you, you want to try something else, you got the tools you need. Okay guys, well that's it for our first example.